The Moonshae Isles are a fascinating archipelago located west of the Sword Coast, steeped in history and natural beauty. Let me take you on a journey through some of the most remote regions. Norland, Moray and Flamstead Island. Norland, primarily inhabited by the hardy Northlanders, is an island of rugged landscapes and ancient traditions. The people here live by the sea, earning their livelihoods through fishing and seafaring. The island's most prominent feature is the South Jotunhammer Mountains, home to many giants, particularly firbolgs. The largest settlement, Rogarsheim, is a bustling hub of Northlanders, Affolk, and even some dwarves. The Storm Maiden, a fierce and revered warrior, rules over Norland with a resilient spirit. The Norlanders are a hard people who seem to me the most like the inhabitants of the Isle of Ruthven, which is to say, they seem as likely to raid and rob you than trade with you, but they deal fair and square. The Norlanders' raiding days are mostly over and done with. Moving west, we come to Moray, a land marked by its wild beauty and dark history. This island, the westernmost of the folk settlements, is perhaps the most dangerous of the Moonshae Isles. The Black Blood tribe, a fierce group of lycanthropes, controls much of Moray, particularly its interior. These followers of Malar, the Beast Lord, make the island a perilous place for humans and other creatures. Despite this, small human villages persist along the coast, clinging to a precarious existence. Notable locations include Caer Moray, a small port village that serves as one of the last bastions of humanity on the island, and Denon's Delve, a ruined dwarven stronghold that hints at a once thriving community now lost to time and strife. Flamstead Island, on the other hand, presents a different kind of wonder. Named after the wizard Flamstead who once lived there, this island was a haven for magic users. Flamstead and his apprentices brought prosperity to the island, enhancing its agriculture and diverting storms. However, as often happens with concentrated power, things took a dark turn. The apprentices' rivalry led to violent conflicts, culminating in a catastrophic explosion that decimated the southern part of the island. Flamstead himself disappeared, and the island is now all but uninhabited, with the constant threat of wandering owlbears and manticores. These islands, each with their unique character and challenges, provided a rich and nuanced backdrop for some of my most memorable encounters, including my confrontation with a native wyvern. It was a brisk morning on the island of Moray, the air thick with the scent of pine and the distant roar of the sea. I had been tracking a wyvern known to haunt the craggy cliffs near Caer Moray, a beast of legend among the local villagers. I had seen some pretty big wyverns in my time, usually in the desert, but the Moonshae variety was something else. Wyverns, cousins to the great dragons, are formidable predators. Unlike their more intelligent kin, they possess only a pair of hind legs, with their forelimbs evolved into powerful wings. This adaptation grants them an agility in flight that few can match, making them masters of the sky. The one I tracked was a typical specimen, about 20 feet in length with a wingspan even greater, covered in dark mottled scales that glinted ominously in the pale sunlight. Its eyes, a fiery orange, burned with a predatory hunger. These creatures are solitary by nature, fiercely territorial, and they do not tolerate intruders lightly. Wyverns' life cycles are relatively straightforward but fascinating. They lay clutches of leathery eggs in hidden nests, often high up in rocky outcrops or dense forests, where the hatchlings are guarded ferociously by the mother. A wyvern's lifespan can reach up to 50 years, though many fall to rival predators or ambitious adventurers long before that. Their diet is carnivorous, consisting mainly of large mammals, fish, and even other reptiles. They are known to hunt deer, boar, and occasionally livestock if they venture too close to human settlements. A wyvern's preferred hunting method is to dive from great heights, using their powerful hindclaws to snatch up prey, which they then carry off to devour at leisure. Their stinger, loaded with potent venom, is used to immobilize larger or more dangerous prey, ensuring a swift and certain kill. Wyverns have a range that spans the highlands and coastal regions of the Moonshaes. They favor remote, rugged areas where they can nest in peace, far from human interference. However, the encroachment of civilization sometimes forces them into conflict with humans, as was the case on Moray. My encounter began at dawn. I had found signs of its presence, a trail of half-eaten carcasses and the unmistakable scent of wyvern musk. Steeling myself, I followed the trail to a cliffside cave. The beast was there, sleeping soundly atop a hoard of bones. I moved as quietly as I could, but even the slightest misstep can awaken a wyvern, and so it did. The wyvern's head shot up, its eyes locking onto me with deadly intent. It let out a roar that echoed off the cliffs, a sound that sent shivers down my spine. Without warning, it lunged, its claws extended and tail arched over its back, ready to strike. I barely had time to roll aside as the stinger lashed out, embedding itself in the ground where I had stood moments before. In combat, a wyvern employs a combination of aerial and ground tactics. It will use its flight to stay out of reach of ground-bound opponents, swooping down to attack with claws and stinger. On the ground, it uses its massive tail to keep foes at bay while striking with its venomous stinger. The venom is potent enough to cause paralysis and death within minutes if not treated. As I dodged and counterattacked, I observed its attributes. Wyverns are immensely strong, with a strength rivaling that of an ogre, but their agility in the air is what makes them truly dangerous. Their senses are keen, especially their sight, which allows them to spot prey from miles away. They are resistant to most mundane weapons, their thick scales providing excellent protection. However, they are not particularly intelligent and can be outwitted with the right strategy. Its saving throws, particularly against physical attacks, are formidable due to its natural armor and agility. It has a particular resistance to being grappled or restrained thanks to its powerful wings and muscular body. However, its intelligence and wisdom are lacking compared to true dragons, making it vulnerable to certain spells and tactics that exploit its lesser intellect. Wyverns, in their lairs, have access to unique lair actions. They can create gusts of wind strong enough to knock intruders off their feet or send them tumbling down cliffs. They can also use their knowledge of the terrain to create rock slides or cause parts of the cave to collapse, trapping or injuring those who dare to intrude. After what felt like an eternity, I managed to land a decisive blow. The wyvern, already weakened from a previous injury, finally collapsed, its fierce orange eyes dimming. I stood over it, breathless and battered, but victorious. My heart pounded in my chest, a mix of adrenaline and the sheer thrill of survival coursing through my veins. The wyvern lay still, its once fiery eyes now dulled to a lifeless grey. As I caught my breath, I couldn't help but reflect on another encounter with a wyvern, one that took place in a far more controlled and perilous environment, the menagerie of a powerful pasha in Calimport. Calimport, the sprawling, sun-baked jewel of Calimshan, is a city of contrasts and contradictions. It is a place where opulence and squalor exist side by side, where the rich and powerful exert their will over the downtrodden masses. The pasha in question was one of the wealthiest and most influential nobles in the city, his palace a veritable fortress filled with exotic creatures from across Faerun. Among his collection was a wyvern, a magnificent and terrifying beast kept in a gilded cage. The wyvern in the pasha's menagerie was a spectacle meant to awe and intimidate visitors. Its scales were a deep, shimmering emerald, and its eyes glowed with an unnatural intelligence. This wyvern was no mere animal. It was a symbol of the pasha's power and his willingness to control even the most dangerous of creatures. The creature's life in captivity was a stark contrast to its wild kin. It was fed a diet of specially prepared meats, ensuring it remained strong and healthy, but also dependent on its captor. Wyverns in captivity, especially those in places like Calimport, are often used for nefarious purposes. They are trained to be aggressive, their natural tendencies amplified by harsh treatment and conditioning. The pasha's wyvern was no exception. It was frequently used as a tool of intimidation, its roars echoing through the palace grounds, a reminder of the pasha's reach and ruthlessness. Wyverns, whether in the wild or in captivity, have a formidable array of attributes. They possess immense strength, their powerful muscles allowing them to take flight with ease and strike with devastating force. Their senses are highly developed, particularly their vision, which is sharp enough to spot prey from miles away. Despite their brute strength, wyverns are also incredibly agile, able to maneuver with surprising grace in the air. In terms of combat, wyverns are relentless and cunning. Their primary attacks include powerful bites, razor-sharp claws, and most deadly of all, their venomous stingers. The venom of a wyvern is potent, capable of causing excruciating pain and paralysis, often leading to death if not treated promptly. Their combat tactics typically involve a combination of aerial assaults and ground attacks, using their flight to gain the advantage over their prey. On one fateful night, the Harper network, with which I was clandestinely affiliated, decided to use the pasha's own weapon against him. While a more critical Harper operation was set to take place elsewhere in the city, we orchestrated a plan to release the wyvern, creating a chaotic diversion. The goal was simple: disrupt the pasha's control and draw his forces away from our true objective. The plan was fraught with peril. We infiltrated the palace under the cover of darkness, our steps silent as shadows. Reaching the wyvern's cage, I could feel the creature's eyes upon me, sensing its anticipation and rage. With a few deft moves, the locks were undone, and the cage door swung open. For a moment, the wyvern hesitated, perhaps disbelieving its sudden freedom. Then, with a thunderous roar, it burst from its confines, its wings spreading wide as it launched into the night sky. The resulting chaos was everything we had hoped for and more. The wyvern, driven by fury and the instinctual need to reclaim its lost freedom, wreaked havoc across the palace grounds. Guards and servants alike scattered in panic, their shouts and screams echoing through the night. The city's defences, already strained by internal strife and corruption, were quickly overwhelmed. Militia forces and private guards from other nobles rushed to contain the beast, leaving their posts and opening gaps in the city's defences. As the wyvern tore through the city, it became a living testament to the inherent instability and fragility of Calimport's power structure. The Pasha, for all his wealth and influence, could not contain the raw, untamed power of a creature he had sought to control. The city's defence, lacking a central authority and riddled with corruption, crumbled under the pressure. In the chaos, our primary mission proceeded without a hitch. The wyvern's rampage through Calimport had drawn every available guard and militia to the palace, leaving our true target vulnerable. As the city reeled from the unexpected assault, we slipped into the Pasha's treasury and retrieved the critical documents. These papers contained detailed records of illicit dealings and dark alliances, information that would be invaluable to the Harpers in their ongoing struggle against tyranny and corruption. As dawn broke over Calimport, the city's defences were in shambles. The wyvern had vanished into the desert, leaving behind a scene of devastation and chaos. The Pasha's grip on power had been visibly weakened, his prestige tarnished by the loss of his prized beast and the exposure of his vulnerabilities. It was a successful operation by all measures, yet it was not without its costs. The sight of the wyvern, free but furious, stayed with me, a reminder of the raw power that even the mightiest rulers cannot fully contain. Now, years later, in 1499 DR, I find myself once again amidst the wild beauty of the Moonshaes, headed to the island of Sarifal. This journey, however, promises a different kind of challenge. Sarifal, known for its heavy Fey activity, is a land where the lines between Faerun and the Feyworld blur. The island, also known as Gwyneth, is a place where ancient magic and natural wonder coexist with peril and mystery. As I approached Sarifal, the island's landscape unfolded before me in a series of breathtaking vistas. The ruins of Caer Corwell, once the proud seat of House Kendrick, stood as silent sentinels to the past, now overtaken by nature and Fey influence. The Murloc Vale, a serene and mystical valley, lay at the island's heart, its waters shimmering with an ethereal light. This was the home of the Luir Elves and the seat of High Lady Ordalf, the Lachey Queen, who ruled Sarifal with a blend of grace and iron will. The forests of Winterglen, dense and teeming with life, held secrets both wondrous and dark. Here the forces loyal to Lady Ordalf clashed with those of the Shadowfell, each vying for control over this enchanted land. The sacred grove of the Earth Mother, with its ancient moonwell, was a place of profound reverence and power, where druids communed with the very essence of nature. My purpose on Sarifal was twofold. Firstly, to study the unique interactions between the Fae and the natural world, a subject that had long fascinated me. Secondly, and more urgently, to uncover any potential threats that might arise from the ongoing conflict between the light and dark Fae forces. As I delved deeper into the heart of the island, the presence of the Fae became palpable. The air was thick with magic, and every step I took seemed to resonate with the island's living spirit. In my travels, I encountered many of Sarifal's inhabitants. The Luir Elves, with their timeless wisdom and serene demeanour, spoke of the island's history and their ongoing struggle to maintain balance. I also met with some of the more enigmatic Fae creatures, beings of light and shadow whose motives were as inscrutable as their appearances were breathtaking. These encounters, though fraught with danger, provided invaluable insights into the complex web of alliances and enmities that defined life on Sarifal. The Fae of Sarifal, much like the Wyvern in Calimport, embodied the unpredictable and untamed forces of nature. They remind us that true power cannot be contained or controlled without consequence. Whether in the wilds of the Moonshae Isles or the gilded cages of Calimport, wyverns embody the delicate balance between strength and freedom, a balance that we, as adventurers and scholars, must always respect. My time on Sarifal was both enlightening and humbling. The island's Fey inhabitants, with their deep connection to the land and its magic, offered a glimpse into a world where nature and enchantment are intertwined in ways that are both beautiful and perilous. As I prepared to leave, I knew that the knowledge I had gained would serve me well in my future endeavours. Now, let's shift gears and talk about one of the most formidable creatures you might encounter in the Moonshae Isles, the Moonshae Wyvern. This beast is larger and more powerful than the standard wyvern, adapted to the magical and harsh environment of the Moonshaes. The Moonshae Wyvern is a large dragon with a strength score of 21, giving it a +5 bonus to strength-based tasks and attacks. It has a dexterity of 12 and a +1 bonus, but also a +5 dexterity saving throw bonus, reflecting its agility for a large flying creature. Its constitution score of 20 grants it a +5 bonus and a +9 on constitution-based saving throws, with damage resistance to both poison and extreme cold. This allows the wyvern to withstand high alpine cold climates in noxious swamps or jungles with toxic plants and venomous animals. The wyvern's intelligence is low, with a score of 6 and a -2 penalty for intelligence-based tasks. They are not smart, but are alert and cunning hunters. They can become confused easily, leading them to rage or leave in frustration to hunt elsewhere. Their wisdom score of 13, with a +1 bonus and a +5 to wisdom-based saving throws, reflects their keen senses and survival instincts. With a perception bonus of +7, 60-foot dark vision, and a passive perception of 17, they are difficult to sneak past and very good at finding their targets. They can understand basic Draconic but cannot speak it, and their charisma score of 7 with a -2 penalty reflects their erratic and aggressive personalities. In combat, the Moonshae Wyvern can make 3 attacks: a bite, a claw swipe, and a sting with its venomous tail. The bite deals significant damage as the wyvern tears into its prey, while its claws are equally deadly. The stinger is the most feared weapon, with venom potent enough to cause severe pain and paralysis, often leading to death if not treated promptly. The Moonshae Wyvern also has legendary actions. It can detect hidden enemies, perform a tail sweep to knock down foes, or use a wing buffet to push enemies back and cause additional damage. These abilities make it a dynamic and unpredictable combatant. Within its lair, the wyvern can harness the mystical energies of its environment to perform lair actions. It can conjure a thick magical fog, create thorny vines to restrain trespassers, or cause an area to glow with a fey light, making it impossible for creatures to hide or turn invisible. These lair actions make the wyvern even more dangerous on its home turf. And there you have it, the Moonshae Wyvern. This mighty beast, shaped by the wild and mystical forces of the Moonshae Isles, presents a greater challenge for any adventurer daring enough to face it. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the lore of the Moonshae Wyvern. My name is AJ Pickett. Thanks for listening, and as always, I'll be back with more for you very soon.